Guess who got brands talking? Brandlive.co.za.
Brandlive.co.za. This is the Fashion Blueprint. Beautiful, glorious Friday in the smoldering heat. I am here. My name is Thando Mangaliso. I'm here with Vanya, who's just come back from China. How are you, my lovey?
I'm okay, thanks, Kali. Beautiful hot day, as you say.
Yes.
Wonderful being on the Blueprint.
Again.
Of course.
Just want to send a shout out to all the people that have been supporting us. The show is nothing without you. Thank you very much. The support, social media has been going crazy. Our listenership is growing, week in, week out. And we've just finished a year now on the program, and what a year it has been.
Oh my God, has it been a year already?
Yep, it's already been a year.
Oh,
52
really
Fridays have passed, come and gone.
Thank you for making it such an exciting show for us. Because, as we say, without your interaction, your comments, your feedback, the show wouldn't be what it is. And we thank our special guests, our studio guests that often come in to interact with us. We really appreciate the support.
Okay.
There's a lot happening, as usual.
No, for sure. There's a lot happening, and the only way for us to find our solutions as small businesses is to talk to one another. And that is what we're here to do on the Fashion Blueprint today. Now, from my understanding, you were out in China last week. Tell us more about that. Shanghai, China opening up.
Yes. What's exciting is China opening up. The Chinese are encouraging the businesses, entrepreneurs in China to collaborate and with businesses and start importing. So what's as you can imagine, it's not an easy one. They're not just going to start importing, but so the government has made sure that it's incentivizing the Chinese traders not only to just supply the world with products, but also and services, but also to see what other how can they import. Because what is really exciting was the keynote address by the Chinese President Xi Jinping, who says he understands that the prosperity of the world, of the countries of the world, is increasingly becoming interconnected.
Right.
So basically, if China doesn't look after, doesn't see itself as integrated into the rest of the world, they might not have many customers in future.
Okay, so
which is a very interesting way of thinking about it.
Right. So okay, because the way that we see China is that they are always trying to export, feed. Now the tables are trying to turn. They're trying to turn the tables.
And so they're saying now, our prosperity is dependent on what you guys do. And if we can support you in any way, then it means we will be okay.
Right.
So now the world is actually going towards circular economies.
Yes, like you said. So is this something that they thought about like the last year, or is it just been in the...
But I mean, the Chinese are really like 5 steps ahead of the rest of the world, let's face it. They're thinking... You saw the photographs, you saw the footage. I know in South Africa when you have an exhibition, if you can get 3,000 people, 4,000 people, it's great. 10,000, wow. We're talking now an expo that had over 1 million people. You're talking 172 countries. Out of how many countries in the world? 176.
Yo.
So it kind of tells you the scale. Conspicuously absent was the US.
Oh, because of the tariff.
For whatever reason. However, a lot of you had the opening day. You had lots of captains of industries like head of Microsoft was there, the Tesla. You had a lot of American companies there because China is a big market, while the two governments are sorting out their issues. And
but the show must go on and business must be done.
Show must go on. And I think, as the Chinese president so says, that the world is interconnected. So it would be really unwise not to be a part of this.
Right.
Because like we say, you had 172 countries. And you're talking 3,600 companies from around the globe. and all the countries had the pavilions and individual businesses. South Africa well represented there, and and the Chinese just not getting enough of rooibos.
Rooibos.
Chinese love rooibos. Rooibos anything. Rooibos product, rooibos skincare, rooibos food, anything.
And Chocholoza?
Oh, of course, everywhere we went, we were singing Chocholoza all the time. They just couldn't get enough. They just loved it. The Chinese just loved
I saw your one video where
They
you guys
just-
made like a little train of people, obviously, and even the Chinese were joining the train, you know?
They started it. That's all they wanted. they just love. I think it's also the beauty of the novelty of them hearing sounds they've never heard, seeing things they've never seen. Because that's, because if you're Chinese, you've pretty much seen and recreated everything in the world. So they just loved. They also treated us to their own songs. They were so encouraged. I didn't know they were like a singing nation like that.
And I suppose, a song like Chocholoza is also a reflection of our culture in terms of it's so inclusive. You can get involved. There's so many melodies. You can just jump on the bandwagon, and even if you don't know the words, you can just be like, no, do, do, do.
Of course, and the irony of the song, the meaning of the song and its origins was not lost on me. I don't know if it was lost on everybody else. The fact that if you think of how Shosholoza is, what Shosholoza originally was, the train taking migrant laborers to look for fortunes and across the lands.
And a lot of
now
them,
here we are as South Africans and many other nations of the world going into China.
to look for those riches.
To look for the riches, and this time it wasn't the train, but
But remember, a large
birds
part
in
of
the sky.
a large part of the population in Shanghai can relate, because Shanghai is like Johannesburg. It came out,
Of course, it's very cosmopolitan. you're right.
cosmopolitan. Most people have come, from outside. I think it's less than 40 years old or something like that.
It is about a really, really beautiful city. I was just amazed at the infrastructure. And just to my heart's delight, that all along these freeways, I've got these pot plants, these flowers. It's really everything's so well thought out in China. Nothing is by coincidence. I suppose with the kind of population, you can't just have things happening randomly. A real treat, a real a vision of what efficiency can be.
I think
even at the exhibition itself, they were really so organized. You had interpreters. Each section, like the South African pavilion, was allocated an interpreter. So if you got a Chinese buyer or customer, and you're having translation problems, there was a translator there for you. They were very well dressed, and by the way, the Chinese dress extremely well. I mean, you can't really judge them by the stuff we get here. They things have got detail. They send us all the plain black dresses, and they keep the stunning stuff. Like, I mean, if a woman is wearing a black dress, it won't just be black. There'll be like a little bit of decoration, maybe a bit of lace here, even men's stuff, not just a plain black jacket. Maybe he'll have like a leather panel here, so a button here and there. Just really that
bit of embroidery
a
somewhere.
bit of embroidery, just simple, classic, neat. But there's a lot of love. There's a lot of caring. There's and of course everyone's carrying a Louis Vuitton bag.
The fakes and the real ones. Now tell me something. Remember,
Very, very hard to tell, because one of the things about China is, you can get the cheap stuff, but you can also get the not so expensive stuff but quality stuff. So it's like you slice it any way you like.
Yeah, no, they should be bringing better stuff. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming in from China and South Africa. A lot of our people are able to dress better, televisions and things like that. But it'd be nice if they just upped it just a little bit,
Well, I think it's the people that either import or send stuff out here. They would have to. I think people need to realize that you'd rather spend, as a customer, like we often say, you'd rather spend R1 more just to make sure that the screw is tighter. It's not gonna fall apart when you buy a product from China, because people complain about quality, and that's really not what China's about. That's not all that China is about.
they do it all. Sure.
There's just so much more to China.
Now you spoke about the South African stand having a translator, someone that could, send messages and communicate. isn't it ironic? Remember 20 years ago when I met you roughly, someone said that, sooner or later people will have to start learning Mandarin.
Oh, yeah.
And as much as we speak English, didn't you feel like a little, I wouldn't say ignorant, but the fact that we just don't have a feel, we just don't have any understanding.
Yeah, it felt a little like we were just like at the bottom of the globe in Africa, really far away from everything. And as a nation, even though you've got Africans, you've got people that are all over China doing business. I met a South African girl. They're doing amazing things. A Masutu girl who's mixing it up in China, loving Shanghai, connecting South African businesses to Chinese investors.
Is she living there?
She's living there. She's been there for 2 years, and she's really loving it, working hard. One thing about the Chinese, they work very, very hard. Like with 1.4 billion people, we had these people on the streets when we were there. Whether they were briefed to give us room to roam around or they were at work, but obviously a lot of them were at work. They work hard and they save. The Chinese save. I think the Chinese economy is where it is also because of the savings. They make money to save, unlike, I suppose, some of us in the rest of the world where it's still about make money and spend it.
Right.
They live good lives and they love being Chinese. It's another thing. They love all things Chinese. They love the food. They love the fashion. They love the rituals. You go to a Chinese temple in the middle of the day. There's people. There's Chinese walking in from all walks of life, from the rich to the poor, coming to pay their respects, just being themselves.
Interesting.
Doing all things Chinese.
And them also with their religion, obviously, practicing a form of ancestral worship, which is Buddhism, paying respect to Buddha himself, and then using their relatives who have passed on as a vehicle to get to Buddha. I think that's also very, very interesting.
Oh yeah, very interesting. How, like I said, they're very traditional. They're very family orientated. We drove past this, so we traveled a little bit around by bus, so we could see the countryside. And one of the towns we passed, they have this stairway that people climb on New Year's, and the whole thing is you've got to be the first one. It's believed that if you get to the top of the stairs up the mountain, it brings good fortune.
Is this next to Shanghai?
No, on the way to you,
Right.
outside of Shanghai. So a lot of people the Chinese, they uphold all those traditions and rituals about their lives, all those things that really make them Chinese. And it's very interesting to watch, especially as Africans, when we tend to
Drift away,
relax,
be ashamed,
all those things, and not
embrace what we
really
have.
embrace what we have. And I think it kind of dilutes our being, identity, and our lives. And that was just really amazing also about China. And also to see how the modern and the traditional, they exist side by side with no conflict. You don't have to reject one to embrace the other.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And
because they get with the times, obviously, in terms of their handheld phones and everything works. But then in the end of the day, that thing that makes them Chinese is strong.
And what's interesting, it's almost a cashless society. I mean, they're just so advanced. They're just so they don't use WhatsApp. They use WeChat. So basically, even when you go to markets to buy things, you pay via WeChat.
Oh wow!
Which has just interesting implications.
So everyone's got their little barcode on their WeChat, and then it just scan that.
If you think of like a continent in Africa where there are parts where there's no real infrastructure for money and all these things and banking systems, there are just so many amazing solutions that are coming out and applications for us. And like I say, it's everything is just digitized. And online shopping, when it goes insane. When we were, just before we left, it was the 11th of the 11th, so it's called Singles Day in China, and it goes insane. I think Alibaba within an hour had made $30 billion.
Yo.
I mean, that is insane.
Yo.
Those
That's
are
crazy.
like
It's part of that 1.4 billion. Those numbers, the insatiable appetite,
was insane,
conspicuous consumption.
yeah. And it was just ticking and ticking and ticking, and you just think how in South Africa, online sales are just not taking off. I'm sure they will, but well, especially when it comes to fashion, because I think that people in South Africa still believe in brick and mortar. You want to go in and walk into a store, feel it, make sure that it's what you're getting. And I think the more our industry grows and people get familiar, when things are more, even the terminology is more the same. Like if it's case sheeting, everyone understands what case sheeting is. If we say it's cotton,
Everyone understands what it's
everyone understands. If it's a cotton lycra, everyone understands whether it's soft or not. I think it will change things. We just need to work a little harder.
Now, in relation to your designer sitting in South Africa, what are the opportunities in the East? Because, you know, for a long time, people are trying to go to Europe, people are trying to go to the States. It's not really working out. So there's a disconnect. Do you think that there are genuine opportunities for the young designer in South Africa? And what would the best way be?
Now, of course, there's plenty of opportunities. It's just that for so long, everyone has been looking towards the West. People want to make it in Europe. People want to make it in the States, which is all great. But you know, you can see by the way that, like, the speech by our deputy minister said something to the effect of, the African leaders are all here in China today at this expo, because they finally recognize what their followers are doing, because they are the ones who are filling up the planes going to China, and because the opportunities are there.
Right.
Because you're talking scale. Going back to the question of the young designer, of course there are opportunities, but it's not as easy as it looks. It's very complicated. Just starting with communication with China, the different time zones. So it's not as easy as it sounds. However, there are great opportunities. But I would suggest that a person starts locally, build your market here. Try trading with somebody in Zimbabwe. Try Swaziland. Get the hang of it. Those are big markets. Maybe, who knows, you can start to convince somebody from not getting on a plane to China and twice a year. Maybe they go once. The other half they buy from us. We can do that. We are the gateway into Africa. And if you think of Gauteng's economy being the
Third largest.
Continent's third largest economy, if it were a country, it would be the continent's third largest economy. So
I'd even take it a step back. It's one thing to deal with someone in Botswana, but what about if you're a Joburg-based designer, start in KwaZulu-Natal?
There we go.
Start in Vereeniging.
There we go. Get a collaboration. Find somebody with a store. They carry your items. You carry theirs. I think, things like that. You get a hang of it. You are growing your market base. It's cross-subsidization
and upscaling as well. You're
upscaling.
able to upscale from maybe you're making 5 to 30 now.
There we go.
Start slowly, because I think the Chinese and the Chinese are going to want 2,000.
Oh yeah, they don't get you wanting to do 200, even 2,000. The Chinese are like, why not 20,000? You only want to sell to 2,000 people, 200 people. How does that make sense? So they talk numbers. They want to do 20,000. They want to do 200 units, 200,000 units, that kind of thing. And so the advantage with obviously upscaling is that you're also able to benefit from the economies of scale. You can bring your prices down. You can plan better, and that's something that is important, because the last speeches that the Chinese president made, he mentioned the city of Yiwu. There's a town called Yiwu, which is the Chinese designated small commodities city. The city is not small itself, but it's for small commodities, basically like your fashion accessories, your household items. That's where they come from. This is where they get packaged. So the Dragon cities here and the Chinese mall that are here, they get the stuff sent from Yiwu.
Right.
So everything obviously in China is very specialized. This city will do this. They've got those specialized zones, and you
specialized and segmented.
Very
nice.
Segmented.
Yeah.
So that's obviously we are also going there, South Africa, but it will take time. So so in that city, this is the first one where the municipality has now gone out of its way to incentivize the Chinese traders that they must collaborate with other businesses. Start to import from the rest of the world. And and that's what it's. What do you? And that's what it's about.
All right, guys. As you know, all good things must come to an end. Show is over now. Just want to say thank you for everyone for supporting us. We'll be back next week. The Fashion Blueprint, myself, Thando Mangaliso, and my beautiful wife, Vanya Mangaliso. Any closing remarks before we go?
Well, thank you for the feedback and the comments. Very grateful to be back home. Travel is not cannot be taken for granted that you'll go and come back. So I'm very grateful to you for holding it down with the family and everything.
No, for sure.
And let's do this. Let's continue looking ahead to a great season. And if you have any questions and comments, kindly send them through. And let's see what we can do.
Okay, and like all great Hollywood directors go on to say at the end of a movie, that's a wrap.
May it be profitable.
Harnessing the power of talk radio. Brandlive.co.za